Mainly, I thought that we'll start with some encouragement from our this Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, and I think most of my material actually I thought Straits Times is to me is the best scientific journal, because it's really the official stand, and I learned a lot from Straits Times actually about what's happening in Singapore. So I just share from this particular thing that Mr. Lee Hsien Loong talked about. Actually, you can see it's from the Straits Times, Singapore planning for a new normal. And I think working from home would be a new normal. For me, as I'm a frontliner, so I'm working in a hospital setting. Actually, for the first 1 year, I've been actually also covering the COVID ward in IMH. That means the fever ward. During SARS, that was 2003, I was also covering the fever ward. That means people with fever. That means high risk of contacting SARS at that time. And this time around also COVID. So there's a lot of, like what Tzu Hui said, a lot of issues with safety is one. And how do we actually work in a safe way, at the workplace. Now, of course, because of the need for safety and preventing the spread of infectious disease, now we have this new normal, which is actually working from home. And we've done so for the last 1 year. And I think it has affected us in many, many different ways. But nevertheless, I think this is actually what Mr. Lee Hsien Loong shared on television, right? About planning a new normal of living. And this is going to stay, right? We'll not go back to the old ways. It's going to be a new normal. As a healthcare worker, I just told Tzu Hui and Agnes, I just went for my weekly routine swab. Every week I have to go for go up and dig the nose, okay, and go for swab. Okay, I have to submit my temperature twice a day, even Saturday and Sunday, right? I have to put my location, whether I'm on leave, on duty, and all this. So there's a lot of all this monitoring because we need to know whether we are healthy and whether we are safe. And likewise, there's about quarantine now. If you happen to be COVID positive by the swab, you will be isolated. Right, the Ministry of Health requirements, actually, you may need to be ready with a bag, right? It may be even your laptop, and you'll be working in the hotel for 14 days. And even if the thing developed, maybe even 21 days. Recently, Mr. Tongi, who's actually my church member, my dad's group, his little boy was isolated in ACS Primary, right? So he was isolated also in the hotel. Right, so he was working with this boy in a hotel. So I think we need to be prepared for this new normal. Okay, maybe we'll just take this time to listen to what Mr. Lee had to say about this new normal.
One day, this global pandemic will subside. But I do not expect COVID-19 to disappear. It will remain with humankind and become endemic. The virus will continue to circulate in pockets of the global population for years to come. This also means we'll see small outbreaks of the disease from time to time in Singapore as well. In this new normal, we'll have to learn to carry on with our lives, even with a virus in our midst. Our aim must be to keep the community as a whole safe, while accepting that some people may get infected every now and then. Just as we do with a common flu or dengue fever, which we now manage through public health measures and personal precautions. And in the case of the flu, with regular vaccinations too. COVID-19 vaccinations will not entirely prevent you from getting COVID-19, but the vaccinations make this much less likely. And if you do get sick, despite being vaccinated, you are also much less likely to become very ill. Living with endemic COVID-19 also means we don't completely close our borders. We need food, essential supplies, workers, business and other travelers to keep on flowing. We must stay connected to the world with effective safeguards and border restrictions to keep ourselves safe. We will not be able to prevent some infected persons from slipping through from time to time. But as long as our population is mostly vaccinated, we should be able to trace, isolate, and treat the cases that pop up and prevent a severe and disastrous outbreak. Singapore's priority is to get through this pandemic and position ourselves strongly for the future, even as the virus continues to rage around us. If we stay united and continue to work together, we'll be able to progressively open up and achieve our aim. In the new normal, COVID-19 will not dominate our lives. Our people will be mostly vaccinated and possibly taking booster shots every year. We will get tested often, but it will be fast and easy. We'll go to work or school, meet friends and family, participate in religious services, and enjoy entertainment and sports events. We will reopen our borders safely. Visitors will again come to Singapore. Singaporeans will travel again to countries where the disease is well under control, especially if we have been vaccinated. And eventually, we will even go about without masks again, at least outdoors. Right now, we are some ways off from this happy state, but we are heading in the right direction. In this new normal, the countries which are united, disciplined, and put in place sensible safeguards will be able to reopen their economies, reconnect to the rest of the world, grow and prosper. Singapore will be among these countries, more confident and resilient than before, and toughened by what we have overcome together and experienced together as one nation.
So we heard from Mr. Lee, and actually this is actually on the 31st of May, so it's actually just over. Okay, let me see again. Okay, so even as we navigate Zoom, okay, all right. Yeah, so I think it's going to be like a new normal. Like I said, I think most of us need to go for our vaccination. We're hoping to reach at least 80% of the population vaccinated, right? By I think the end of this year, right? So Singapore is waiting for all the supplies to actually come in and everything to be actually rolled out. As the vaccination roll out, then what we expect is that there will be less severe illness, the hospital won't be swarmed, and then the economy can then open up more, okay? And I think that's what we're moving towards. But it's an ongoing process. I think for the last 1 year, I think a lot of us are all struggling. And I was like to just share what I know from rehabilitation and recovery on how to establish a better routine, right? So this is actually my slide deck. Huh? Okay, so this is the overview. Let me just put it on. Okay, so overview today we have introduction, NEST, N-E-S-T. Later I'll tell you what is NEST, just in case. Okay, it's more important about structure and spaces, about roles, responsibility, healthy, happier, and holier routines. I also put happier and healthier routine, but for church we have holier routines also. And of course, then we have conclusion. Okay, so half an hour to go through. Just a quick introduction. All these are my various roles. My work is actually quite heavy, like what this survey said, but I think my first role, I forgot to put in there. I'm actually the child of the living God. Yes, amen. All of us should remind ourselves we are child of the living God. All right, maybe that's why we are not like very much responsible. But I'm a father, a husband, a son. I'm also a teacher. I teach in NUS and also this Yong Rulin School and also LKC Medicine. I've also been a mentor for many of the mental health services providers, and also coaching, and also a friend to many people. So all of us have many roles, and it can be quite stressful. So how do I manage stress? Sometimes I don't. I surrender to God and let the Lord help me. Okay, so exactly like what the synopsis say, the pandemic has really brought about a lot of changes. It's really a volatile, right, uncertain, and really a complex and ambiguous world that we actually live in. With the mask wearing, so when you go out, you may not be, you feel very uncomfortable and not able to breathe properly. Working from home, home-based learning are all part of this new normal. And stress can be experienced in this midst of a lot of changes. Heightened alert, now we're in a heightened alert. And the blurring of boundaries of work and rest spaces. Now, of course, this need to actually increase coordination in the household and to prevent social isolation. So from a medical point of view, as a psychiatrist, we have stress. Stress can be positive when it's mild, temporary, there's significant support. We actually learn new skills and we actually overcome the stressful event. But I think with this pandemic going and stretching beyond 1 year, with a lot of disruption, a lot of reviewing, always these things change again, and we, whether it's the shopping mall from 100% to 50% into 25%, and all these things, a lot of times it can become toxic because it becomes intense, prolonged, and if we have limited resource or no support. I think what's important is we want to find out ways to actually overcome this type of toxic stress. And actually, toxic stress does damage us. There's hormonal changes when there's a lot of stress. There's increased risk of diabetes, depression, immune response, and so cardiac death, heart attacks. Neurological change because severe stress, prolonged stress, multiple stress can lead to chemical imbalance in the brain. That's where psychiatry comes in. The doctors actually give medication to stabilize the brain chemistry, right? But I think neurological change actually weakens the connection, the thinking part of the brain. And what happens is that we become very anxious and fearful, because we need to cope with the changes and adversity. Then long-term wise, it also causes changes to the genes, right? Gene expression, where in terms of mental illness, metabolic illness, and all the rest of the issues that we actually have that. So toxic stress is not good. And toxic stress can lead to hopelessness, loss of purpose and meaning. Some of us really wondering what's really happening. And some of us are suffering job loss, or uncertainty, economic setback. Then, of course, the loss of relationships. We hear the increase in family violence, and also even substance abuse and mental illness. And then sometimes all this could actually lead to suicide, because toxic stress that has overwhelmed resilience, and we stop bouncing. And I think it reduces our capacity to manage stress. But I think the important thing is, rather than we say how do we reduce stress and depression, we want to ask a better question. I think it is how can we build greater happiness and resilience? Okay, a better routine, right? I think it's important. And how can we learn to bounce? Okay. And fun again, I think, despite all the stressful situations. Okay, so these are some suggestions. I think we really have to start with ourselves, be good to ourselves and to others, take care of ourselves, support one another, like what we're doing here. So he has lined up all these talks and a series of talks later to ground us on really our spiritual strength and inheritance. And I think don't sweat the small things and don't stress the small things. Maintain a safe and positive space, and learn to relax and also enjoy ourselves. So play nice, work hard, and then stay kind, okay? Despite all the stress. Reach out to people also. The other thing is, I always tell my patients to say HALT, HALT, H-A-L-T means stop. I think when you're hungry, when you're angry, and you're lonely, and when you're tired, I think it's time to do self-care and to be really very simple, right? When you're hungry, you eat something. But very important thing is also when you're thirsty, you get a drink. So even when I give a talk, I need to have a drink, right? So when you're angry, take a step back, ask yourself what's triggering your anger or frustration. When you're lonely, reach out to a friend. The friend may be just a call away, right? I think it's so important. And when we're tired, of course, I think we need to rest. I think that's very important, sleep and rest. So the overview will be on nest. And actually, what is nest? A lot of people actually ask me, how do you build a nest? Okay. The sparrows will actually come home, right, to a nest. So nest actually stands for N for nutrition, E for exercise, S for sleep, and T is for touch, to be in touch with people, be in touch with ourselves. I think that's very, very important. N is for nutrition. So let's look at what nutrition is. I think nutrition is not only the physical food that we take, but the emotional connection we have with people and spiritual food. I think the Bible in Matthew 4:4, right, say, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, right? So very, very important to eat spiritual food and come and listen to sermons and pastors. Okay, in my family, I have started this routine, right? Because everyone is on their computer, on their devices, my kids and all that. I actually make sure that everyone has come for and help prepare meals and clear up. In my family, as the head of the household, as a father, I said that breakfast we meet together before I leave for work. We have to wake up and then have breakfast, the goal setting for the day, and schedule the checking in time, and basically confirm the time for lunch, right? Because my wife will be home with the kids. And then the lunch is the time that we actually, again, settle down and calibrate our time, whether we have actually completed the work that we have actually set ourselves to do, and how can we support each other. And dinner time, so the 3 meal times, right, very important, is Thanksgiving, right? For the day that's passed, I feel very valued because my kids and my family, my wife would welcome me back, say, welcome back, from work, and how's your day? How's your day? And I'll ask them about their day also, the purpose and values we want to put, and also it's an emotional bonding time. So our meal times, I actually set apart 1 hour, right? So it's not the physical eating, but everyone helps to prepare food. I think it's so important, so that we can have time together as a family. So at least 3 hours we are all together, and after every meal we actually clear up also, right? This is a check-in time for us, right? And exercise is so important. Okay, I've been volunteering to go for walks and all that to raise funds for the various charities I actually support. So this was the IMH team, and I think this is a morning stretch. I think first thing in the morning when we wake up the alarm, I think it's good to have a morning stretch. Recently, the ACS boys were in hospital, and Tan Chuan Jing, actually, our speaker, actually came out with a short video on how to do stretching. So if you're interested, you actually can Google the ACS Tan Chuan Jing, right? He actually does this morning exercise, basically stretching your whole body when you wake up so that your body and your mind and body is present, and starting with the head, and I think all the men will have gone through it. Head rotation, right, 5BX, right, then to the shoulders and so on and so forth. So morning stretching is actually very important. And I prefer to actually do it outdoor if possible. If not, if there's a balcony or outdoor space, it's good to go out, right, of the house. So at least there's it's really stretching, and you take in the morning, and you also praise the Lord. Okay. Okay, morning walks. Oh, I'm pointing towards this is MacRitchie Reservoir. There's a gate there. I'm pointing to the wooden bridge because I'm from IMH. Morning walks are very useful. Exercise, I think there's always limitations. Now the gym is a dangerous place. A lot of people are crowded. But I find a lot of people now climbing stairs. Singapore is really a built-up area, right? So climbing stairs is one place to actually exercise. And that's me and my family going for hikes. As a family, this is 2 years ago, so pre-COVID, right? But I do still take photos, but all with a mask on. But really, hiking and going out for walks is bonding time for me and my family, my girls, because you ask the girls to tell you what's happening and then really sit down and talk. Sometimes they don't talk. But during the walks, we look after each other. During the journey, as a father, I lead the way, through all the different paths, and gotta watch out for the stone, watch out for the slippery, for the mud and all that. We help each other as we take long walks and exercise. I think that's one way we actually bond, and it keeps us fit. I think it's important, right? So after nutrition, exercise, very important is sleep. And actually, sleep is so important. And in fact, there's an opinion piece just came out. You can see 17th of June, right? Just a few days ago, that heavy workload for students may be leading to sleep deprivation. Actually, all of us, once the teenagers onwards, we need at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep. 7 to 9 hours of sleep. One sleep cycle, there's a REM sleep and rapid eye movement sleep. It's 1.5 hours. So it's either 6, so 7.5 is good, 9 hours, and 10.5. But most of us need around there. And what happens is that there is a real problem. So I actually set security for all the devices and negotiate with my teenagers, right? They're in JC1 about their workload, and actually ask them whether they need any help. Myself and my wife actually looks out because my kids have to do a lot of project work. So actually, we help them with the project work by finding articles and share information that we know, right? Or link them with people that we know to help them with the workload and to tell them that there are actually hours that they shouldn't be doing things. This morning, actually, in fact, I told my daughter, because my printer, I'm working from home, right? So the printer is actually in my bedroom, in the master bedroom. So last night at 12 midnight, she came in, she needed to print something. She said she needs it this morning. So she woke us up from our sleep. I told her, okay, next time if you need something in the morning, you wake up earlier and tell daddy, okay, first thing in the morning, we print it for you. Okay, don't come and disturb our sleep. Otherwise, daddy becomes sleep deprived and I can't give a talk this morning. Okay. So that's how I put my sleep. Actually, I set a time to sleep for my family. And the time to sleep is actually 9:30. A lot of people are surprised. Okay. And we wake up at 7 because I still need to go to work. Right. So if we prepare breakfast, everything, by 7:30, I need to leave for work. So at least I get enough sleep. I think that's very important. The other tip I have is always I remove all the devices from my teenagers. I keep everything before I sleep. All the laptops and all the phones actually come to me. So it's parental control. Okay. Because I pay for the internet, right? Now a lot of the Wi-Fi, you can set parental control and you can close off their internet connection one. Okay. And also we have pre-sleep rituals. Like myself, actually, I read to my youngest daughter, who's actually in primary 4, Grace for the moment, and that's how to sleep. And we put her to bed and we actually pray with her before she sleeps. And I think it's very important to make the bed and the room a comfortable place to sleep. So for people who can't sleep, I think you have to really remove all the devices from your room and switch off all the lights. Make sure it's dark. The other thing is to switch on the aircon 1 hour before you sleep. Cool down the room, right? Cool down the room, because when you go to a cold place, it triggers, hibernation, the sleep. And when it's dark, it actually helps people sleep. We can also refine the approach every 2 weeks or so on a weekly basis to find out how can we actually fine tune. So even after 1 year of working, this working from home and struggling home-based learning and all, we are still refining. So the family actually have this routine of actually checking in with each other and helping each other, right? So I think touch is also very important because that counters social isolation. So for myself, we can't touch other people, so we're all in one family, right? So we have family hugs, couple hugs, we have sibling hugs. That counter rivalry, sibling rivalry, because sometimes they they are mean to each other or they say something not very nice, or they okay. So for boys, usually they have handshakes, right? And also when we pray, we hold hands together and we pray as a family in a circle. Right, so I think that is so much important because it puts us in touch with one another as a human being. So that reduces social isolation. Okay, so the nest, I think, is so important. How are we going to build a nest at home where people feel like coming home to rest and they feel a sense of belonging coming home? Right, so nutrition, exercise, sleep, and touch. Right, and I think here we just have a stop, okay, to reflect what we learned about nest, because I think that's so important. It's a simple principle, but really now stop, it stands for stop, and then we whatever you're doing now, we take a break. It just take 2 or 3 minutes, only a few minutes, step back, and let's just take a deep breath, okay, and inhale slowly. And you can feel your belly expand, right? Yeah, let it out slowly. And then you take in another deep breath, okay? we actually observe our thoughts and our feelings, how our body actually feels, what our emotions are. And then sometimes we ask ourselves, why are we feeling that? But actually, we don't need to judge, just be curious. And I think we can actually proceed, with a very intentional way to observe our thoughts. And actually it helps us, because as I recall the NEST, right? NEST, NEST for nutrition, E for exercise, S for sleep, how enough sleep, and then T for touch. How am I going to change because I've learned this principle of NEST, right, in my everyday life? For myself first, and then for my family. Okay. I think it's important to have this pause and stop. Okay. And actually, this is what we teach patients who comes to see us with anxiety, with mood problems also, to take regular breaths, deep breaths, and pause. Right? It's called deep breathing exercise. And I actually recommend to all my patients every day must do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, to pause and stop and do deep breathing, get in touch with your body where you are, and it slows yourself down so you can take in the nutrition, right? The food, the emotional, and also the spiritual aspect. So it's good. It helps us to stop racing, and be more structured. So very important now, we go to structure and spaces, right? And this is actually my family. Of course, you can come up with your own family structure. And 7 a.m., I said to you, rise and shine, rise and shine. I actually start with prayer songs and worship songs. Okay? The alarm is actually prayer songs and worship song. And everyone then just go to toilet very quickly, and then we start breakfast. We prepare breakfast, and each member will read out the day, what is going to happen today, what they intend to do. And we actually committed the day to the Lord, And of course, when I'm not at home, they'll fix the lunchtime also. It's usually around 1 p.m. When I'm not home, I catch up with the family by giving a call or even send a WhatsApp, right, on the WhatsApp to just find out what's happening at home with my kids and with my wife. And then by 7 p.m., I will make it home and we'll talk about the day and give thanks. I think that's so important. And after dinner will actually be family devotion, right, reading the Bible and family devotion, and then 9 p.m. sleep. Okay, so that's actually a structure, very simple structure, but the rest of the things then you can add to it, right? Then of course after from that space, or after breakfast, right, around 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. what do people do? Then 2 p.m. to 7, what do people do? Okay, but we fix the new times so the family can come together and we check in with each other and help each other. Okay, so this is actually what I do. Then I think space is actually talking about a particular time and place. And I believe that we need to create corners in our homes. Create corners, because your home can be very big or very small, but we can still create a little corner. We need to create a workspace at home, right? And that may be a workspace or work corner for each family member, your study corner. In fact, because of home-based learning, right, I actually bought coffee tables, small coffee tables, so for my kids, so they can put on their lap and even study in the bed. Very bad practice, but so we tried different things. We tried different things, and they tried on the dining table. They tried on their own room. Then had a fight with the temptation about lying on the bed. Okay, so I think all the families goes through that now. Then of course this issue of the Wi-Fi not reaching the end of the of the room and all that. Then being the father, I have to go and fix up all the Wi-Fi issues, right? Or even have a home plug so that there's a wire connection at the end of the house. So I think all this are about setting up spaces and creating spaces so that each family member have their workplace or have the place to actually study, right? To do the work and home-based learning. And again, we negotiate the space. Again, it's an ongoing conversation throughout the year, how we negotiate the space and then refine the approach. Like when I'm giving talk now, I told my kids not to come in. They cannot use the printer because I'm giving talk, right, in this workspace. And if they want to use a printer, you will be hearing the printer printing. Okay, so all these are some things we need to negotiate, right? And then have actually in the breakfast, and she tell her, what's actually happening today, right? So that's how I've actually created structure and space at home. Okay, and then we talk about roles and responsibility. right? A lot of us, we just see it's very simple roles, but for my wife, other than being a wife, she's also a mother, she's also a worker, she's a Girls Brigade chaplain, right? And also in Girls Brigade HU, right? So there are a lot of activities. She's also a daughter, she'll look after her own mother, and a lot of caregiving and also being a friend. Now, of course, with the son and daughter, they may be a student, but some of them are working already, right? And of course, their sons and daughters, and also they may be a boyfriend and girlfriend also. Right, so all these are things that we need to negotiate. And we have daily house chores. I get my whole family to do house chores. We have various responsibility, and again, it's being structured actually. Then, of course, I always tell my girls that if they need help, they can ask daddy lah. They can ask any one of us to help out, but we must say thank you. I owe you one. Okay. And again, I focus on the meal times. That's where we come together. Food preparation is a family affair. It has become a family affair. Previously, it was not. But it becomes a family affair. Clearing up all the dishes, being responsible, and for individual space. For the, we created spaces, right? But every time we finish, we need to clear up and pack it away for the night before we sleep. And again, it's about having a plan, a structure, and refine it as the family goes along, as we work from home or study from home. Right. So overview, I think we have now reaching the healthier, happier, and holier routines. But it is actually about this simple thing about having a plan, but it's not cast in stone. Okay? It's a living plan. We work out with our family. We actually review it weekly, and if needed, if something really need to change, we daily also is actually needed. And I think the important is to work together to create a nest. And I think a nest is where we are, where the home is, where we receive nutrition, not only the food, but emotional nourishment and also spiritual nourishment. We have exercises, sleep, and also be in touch with one another. Right. So thank you so much for your time. I think it's going to be 1:40. So we have come to the end of the talk. Basically, I think we have gone through about how to create a home where the heart is. It's not easy. Right, I must confess to you, there was a time when my household, more than 2 years ago, before I joined the Fathers Movement, right, I come home, I'm very tired at the end of the day, and then when I come home, the kids may be arguing, the kids may be squabbling, or even they may not squabbling, but I come home, I was unlocking the door, but nobody come and greet me, can you imagine? Okay, because the children are all busy with the computer. Like I don't exist like that, right? So sometimes I don't feel like coming home. Okay, it's very real. Okay, so I told my kids, how can we change this? How can we connect to each other better? How can I feel that, hey, when I come home, I really want to come home? Okay, that's where I came up with this concept of nest and really supporting each other and helping each other. Because working from home is not actually work from home. It's actually the reality, we are fighting still a crisis of the pandemic, right? It's still ongoing. There's lockdowns and people are still quarantined and so on and so forth. There's, for healthcare, it's routine weekly swab that we have to go through, right? Temperature taking and so on. But how can we be kinder to each other and more connected to each other at home? So I think we have gone through the nest. We have also gone through about setting up structure, a routine, right, and creating spaces for each other. Recently, I just got for my Father's Day, right? I was reward myself a secret lap chair, a very nice chair, very comfortable. But of course, because I don't work from home most of the time, I'm in hospital. I'm frontline still, right? My kids, my twins, actually took the chair and used it. I said, "Wow, very comfortable, very good." They can lie down on it. They got the neck support. They got the lumbar support for the back. Okay, so we share asset. Okay, we share asset. Okay. Right, then of course all the various roles and responsibility, we are still navigating this together as a family, and it's about building healthier, happier, and holier routines. Okay, if there's any questions, feel free. I actually left my email, very easy to remember, drjosephleong@gmail.com. Feel free, you can email me, but I'm actually open now for the Q&A session. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So it's 1:40 or 1:39, just in time. So back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Yeah, thank you very much. So we have come into a time of Q&A, and Agnes will also be helping to facilitate the Q&A. But before that, there's already a question in the chat box. Biling says, love your nest idea. The question is, what are your views or recommendations about structures or spaces and the planning of routines versus going with the flow, having the potential danger to add stress to daily living?
Thank you, Biling, for your question. Yeah, so there's always about routines, right? But like I say, it's not cast in stone. Okay, cast in stone. Oh, stuck already. But it's also about this rhythm and rhyme. Okay, because rhythm and rhyme got flow to it, like poetry, like a song, like music, like dance. There's a flow to it. It's not like the military. Must be right on the dot. So I'm military trained. So my kids, actually one of them, my 3 girls actually want to be a soldier. It's like very, very interesting. But anyway, back to that question. It's so we put a time, right? I think it's actually like a 4 year. I adopted from military actually. That's military is first parade. That means first thing in the morning, people fall in 5 BX, 5 basic exercise. Okay. They also have last parade that we check in. Noontime also you check in the men, right? See how they are, whether they complete the work. So military train. Okay. But I think the flow question is a very good question. I think the thing is not to be stuck up, must be like that, like a routine order. But how do we negotiate and navigate? It's like a dance. To me, it's more like music and dance, right? Then there's flow. Okay, I hope that answers that little question about the that. So I mean, myself not getting too angry about they are not too stuck up with. They didn't achieve it. It's not something to achieve, but it's something to actually add structure and security. Because children, right? Children needs structure. Children need structure. And in fact, even as adults, right, we need structure also. Okay, that's why sometimes some of us say we can't work at home. We only can work at work, right? Because work I have a particular structure. Okay, so the main thing is how do we adapt and adjust, right? Some of the structures at home and create that space. Okay, and really every family will have their things about flow, and that's about navigating with and negotiating with each family member. Okay, I hope that answers that question a little bit. Feel free to unmute or to respond to that. Okay, and
Thank you, Joseph. We do have another question in the chat as well. Is being overly anxious or overly anxiety a sign of mental disorder?
Yeah, so very good question. A lot of people ask that. So it's about a mental state. Okay, mental state. When people are anxious, when they're stressed, right? People are stressed, you have the fight, flight, and freeze response. Fight, flight, and freeze response, right? So usually the thought will just come, it may hang for minutes, hours, or days. Okay, it may hang for minutes, hours, or days. That means that negative thought or the anxious thought. Okay, if it actually persists for days, it may be actually a mental illness or a mental disorder, because it will lead to significant impairment in occupational, social, and leisure functioning. Because it's really bothering and really preoccupying a significant impairment in the person's function. But I think some people just repeat once or twice, it's okay. But I think if you have a friend or a family member that keep on disturbing and you feel very disturbed, right? I think you can say, hey, do you think you need help? Because you keep bringing the same thing again and again and again and again. Right. My concern actually is for the elderly also. What happens is that a lot of them, if they're not occupied with social activities, right, like yam cha, meet up with friends, chit chat about good old times, they were all body aches and pain one, right? So do pray for my family also, because my mother-in-law is quite frail. My dad is very frail also, so he's wheelchair bound. So they will have like body aches and pains. It's either dry eyes, the eye is very painful, see multiple doctors, right? Then the doctor say dry eyes, but then they go and get a second opinion, third opinion, or body pain, right? And keep talking about the body pain again and again and again. Then of course you bring them to see doctor, but it's normal. Then we talk about dry skin very itchy, then cannot sleep. So I think if there's actually affecting the person's sleep, right, eating, right, and also being in touch with other people is something that you can actually bring up and see a doctor. And the doctor will do the examination. And if needed, then may need to bring her to see a psychiatrist. We have medication that can help reduce the anxiety, reduce the chemical imbalance in the brain. So I hope that answers your question. Okay,
Thanks, Doctor.
yeah.
Another question, which someone else has put in the chat, but I had a
Robert.
similar idea. Yeah. What if your kids are not compliant but refuse to surrender their digital devices at night?
So for me, it's very simple. All the devices belong to me, because I paid for it. I buy for that one. The Wi-Fi also paid by me, right? So it never belonged to them, I'm the rightful owner. Okay. Now, of course, we know actually we don't own anything. Everything is owned by God, who's our creator, has provided everything. So I'm very thankful for my wife. She always pray, I thank God that He provides. Daddy got a job, got work, so that we can pay for the things that was brought home, or we can buy the groceries and so on and so forth. Okay, so for me, my principle is that if you stay under my house, we got house rules. Okay, and being a father, I really is about negotiating, right? And I think for secondary school, right, we need to be aware that people can be addicted to devices, and or even gaming. I openly confess I have a gaming addiction. I'm a gamer. Yeah, since secondary school, I play games like Chores and all that. It was board games during my time, okay? Yeah, but then when it comes to computers, then you get stuck, or TV and all that. So I think one thing I learned is that as fathers, we need to step up, because a lot of times the mother can't manage that. All right, so really sit down and say, hey, I can see you do this, then you didn't finish your homework, right? Then you're sleeping very late. This is not good. Okay, and then of course, being a father, then I need to also be accountable for my time and what time I sleep. So my wife sometimes asks, dear, last night what time you sleep? He's asking me whether I started playing games again. Then I'll surrender my device to her, and then I say, hey, I delete all the games so you can check. So it's ongoing thing, right? And for me, it's that I'm very thankful my wife prayed for me, and then I'm actually free from games, so I get enough sleep. So the next day, I can go and present talks, okay? And be involved with more helpful and fruitful things. So I hope that helps you. Basically, the principle is that I think exactly like what Robert has shared. If the person is actually adult, they pay for their own devices, they're working, right? And then they pay for their own plan, and it's a work phone, for example. And, you can bring out as a concerned adult to adult talk. I can see that it's affecting your health, it's affecting your work performance, right? I can see that you couldn't concentrate well. I'm concerned for you, right? So it's adult to adult talk. But I think when a child is actually younger, right? That means primary school really is to set the boundaries right. And okay, don't let the phone or the devices be a nanny. But in secondary school, then it's again, as a father, is to really talk to the son. Right, but basically the basic principle is actually I do own all the devices, right? The contract and all that. And then now I mentioned, right, there's a Wi-Fi router. You can set the parental control on, Yeah, a lot of the services you can set and the count even for teenagers, right? There's a lot of all this you can find out, and you can actually have software that will just cut off the internet access. Okay. And the teenager have to come and ask you and negotiate that piece. Robert, does that answer your question? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Wish I heard it 10 years ago. My kids are 19 and 21 years old. Same problem with digital device. I have also. Okay. So we all struggle. So pray for each other. Be kind to each other. Be gentle to each other. Actually, I have a direct question. I won't, because it's directed to me, I won't reveal the person's name, but it says that a friend said, I'm not in good shape, right? That means the friend said, I'm not in good shape now. And friend just keep quiet. And then when I asked, that means a friend revealed to the person that I'm not in very good shape, but the friend just keep quiet. I don't know how to help them and ask them to open up. How to help my friend? Okay, I think that's an important question. I will give you, because it's not an easy question to answer straight away. I will give you some websites. So what is actually, I mentioned I'm Caring for Life. I'm actually a board member. We started this movement called Caring for Life. It's an organization. Can you see this Caring for Life? Yeah, okay, you can see. It's basically Caring for Life SG. So you just Google Caring for Life Singapore, you come to this website. And basically, do you know what to do if someone tells you he or she has not a good shape or has suicidal thoughts? Can you identify the telltale signs if someone wants to act on those thoughts? Okay, learn more. So you can go to this website. There are actually events, right, and training. Okay, Caring for Life before a life is lost. I think the person who actually did a direct message to me is concerned about a friend, right? That may be having anxiety or maybe saying, I'm not in good shape. But then when you talk to the friend didn't want to say any more things. How do you then help, right? So I think this is one organization you can turn to, Caring for Life. They have various events and programs and even a blog, right? So it's not easy questions to answer, but I hope that I can give you some resources that actually are going to be helpful. So Caring for Life is one. The other one is that if you think it's a mental health issue, is actually direct them to SAMH, Singapore Association for Mental Health. This is a website. Can you see SMH? Okay. And you can see they have a helpline here, right? 1-800-283-7019, right? They even have an email, counseling at smh.org.sg. Everything is anonymous. They have a helpline that runs 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays only. The helpline is run by persons who are actually trained masters in counseling. So at least when you call SMH, Singapore Association for Mental Health, you know that the person at the toll-free helpline is somebody who's have a master's in counseling. And actually a lot of them have experience with mental health, such as bipolar, depression, schizophrenia, very severe anxiety disorder like OCD, so on and so forth. Okay, so there are two organizations that can be helpful, right? One is actually Caring for Life. If you actually want to learn more about how personally you can be trained up to actually talk to reach out to a friend, right? You can read the website, right, about their program. Okay, you can download the brochure and join the events. A lot of it is now on Zoom, the training. The other one is to refer them or link them to a counseling helpline. Okay, so I hope that helps that question. So Billing asks also, I have a dear friend who knew she's depressed but refused to see doctor. When encouraged, she went to see a doctor a few times but stopped. Sometimes it could become abusive at home at her sabi, throw things, slapping. What are your recommendations? Okay. So yeah, so a lot of people actually may have seen a doctor. It could be a GP, it could be a psychiatrist. I think the main thing is to, like you say, it's a friend. I think the main thing would be the husband in this case, right, for Billing's friend, right? Whether the husband is wants to go and get help, right? IPH itself, we have a helpline. It's a 6389. Maybe I just type the helpline number there. 6389-2222. Okay, this is a IMH 24-hour line. Okay, 6389-2222 is actually it's called a National Mental Health Helpline. It's 24 hours. They are manned by counselors that can actually access the medical records in IMH. Okay, so the next morning they will give appropriate advice over the phone. If there's actually violence and all this, or link you to other community partners, right? The other thing is they will inform the healthcare team in IMH and ask the doctor for input. Okay, so that's another resource, 6389-2222. I wrote on the chat, right? So I think for Billing's friend, maybe you can alert the husband. But Billing as a friend can actually, again, reflect to this friend and say, you have been a dear friend to me, you know, I can really see things are not going well in your life. This is what I see. Can you share with me what happened? What are your thoughts? You know, what's happening? Yeah, so connect to the person as a friend. Connect to the person as a friend. Because I think if it's a friend, you are there as a friend. Again, a nurse, right? The nutrition, you can connect with them, right? a lot of people are stay home quarantine, but they cook, right? I've been a recipient of a lot of food. Okay. My neighbor sent to me and all that. Ben Quack, who's my church mate, happens to stay downstairs. So when he cooks, his family cook, he brings us some food, one small plate. We cook also, we bring down. Right, then we have a conversation. Now we can visit each other because it's not circuit breaker, right? But nevertheless, sometimes we still have some, right? We can visit each other and help each other. Okay, so I hope that answers Billing's question.
Great. I think we have time for maybe one more question. We do want to honor the time, but I think we can take one more question, and then if there are any other personal questions, I mean, Dr. Leong has given his email, you can consult him, or if you'd like to stay back after the session for us to pray with you as well, feel free to do so. But yes, just any other questions maybe that someone would like to ask on behalf of all.
Dr. Leong, Dr. Joseph, I just wanted to check about this question. Are there signs that we especially need to be mindful of that when we start seeing these signs, whether in ourselves or in our friends or family members, that we should begin to encourage or refer for further counseling or medical help?
Yeah, maybe I frame it, it's a good question. So I mean, just like suicidal thoughts, usually sometimes you may have these thoughts that life is not worth living anymore. It's meaningless. You know, I'm so tired. I don't feel like waking up. I mean, even in my life, I feel that way sometimes. Just like I mentioned, right, that I don't feel like coming home. You know, I come home, you know, years ago, and it's like people are quarreling. You know, I come home, my wife first thing approached me was, say, wow, so-and-so didn't do this, so-and-so didn't do this, so-and-so didn't do this. It's like I come home to a war zone, is it? You know, so I confess it's real. It's very real. So I think when we have those thoughts, we ask ourselves like HALT, right? Are we feeling hungry? We didn't eat enough, or we didn't drink enough? Are we angry or frustrated with something? You know, yeah, we need some time off. L is we're lonely, so we need to connect with somebody. And then T, when we're tired. Yeah, so if you really do self-care for a few days, really, and you still have a lot of recurrent thoughts, the thoughts, negative thoughts or negative feelings are just overwhelming you, it has lasted for days, then I think it's maybe time you may need to seek medical attention. Okay, just like I just saw a young man, he's just cleared NS really. And since secondary school, right, he actually, every time during exams, he will vomit, you know, he actually vomit during exams because of the stress, butterflies in the stomach and all that, he will vomit out. So the way, he never seen a doctor, the way the family told him is always have sweets in the pocket, he will go and suck the sweet and make sure his stomach will actually settle down during exams. So it happens since primary 3, you know. Then of course, it's just, he just tried to cope with it by taking sweet. All right, but when it comes to NS, it's so bad that he actually had panic attacks, palpitations in the heart, fast heart rate, difficulty breathing. Then his mind just blanked out during national service. So what he experienced is actually a panic attack, right? So the panic attack is only during when he's stressed, and it's called performance anxiety. But what happens over the last 1 month is that even though he's not in national service, not in camp, he's even having panic attack at home, right? So the stress has overwhelmed him. The neural circuit in the brain has sort of overfire, right? And he's always constantly thinking, and having this panic being triggered. So he actually have a panic disorder. And the mother who came with him actually shared also, he's afraid of going out by himself. He refused to go out even with friends, refused to go out with family because he's fearful that the panic may actually happen when he's outside. Yeah, so it has become more severe. So he started with, even when he was young, performance anxiety, some vulnerability. The family also has some of these traits. Then, of course, stressful situation, and then, of course, the chemical imbalance now. So we started him on a SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It takes 2 weeks to 2 months to basically calm the neural circuit down, the brain chemistry, the brain neurotransmitter down, and then with taking the medicine, it stabilized his condition, no more panic attacks. But I told him, when you're in a calm state, you need to continue to practice your deep breathing, which he tried, right? And see a psychologist to learn progressive muscle relaxation, because he also mentioned he got a lot of tension, headache, a lot of tension in the body. The whole body is very tense, right? So he needs to learn all the different skills to reduce his stress. Okay, yeah, and maybe I just share one last website. This is a very good website. It's run by a Christian, actually. It's called Therapy in a Nutshell. It's YouTube. I asked my patients to watch YouTube one. So you can see this is how to stop struggling with anxiety and intense emotions, right? How to process emotions. So it's from this YouTube. You can see it's YouTube, Therapy in a Nutshell. Can you all see the screen? Good. Okay, yeah. So it's actually a very good website. Therapy in a Nutshell. It's self-help. And you can see you can actually subscribe. I told all my patients to subscribe for this. How do you rewire the anxious brain? Neuroplasticity and the anxious brain. How do you have sleep hygiene? How do you train your brain to fall asleep? Sleep, anxiety, and insomnia. How to sleep better when you're anxious, right? How to turn off the fight and flight and freeze response. And how do you release the emotional that's trapped in your body? Okay, so she has a lot of videos, 17 videos on grounding techniques, 54 videos on anxiety skills. And each video you can see is actually very doable. It's 7 minutes or 14 minutes. It's very short. Okay, and what I recommend to my patients, especially coming caregivers, is that, the dinner routine, after dinner, right, as a family, sit down, watch one video, write down what have you learned. Okay, as a family, how are we going to do better? What do we need to change in our routines, right, so that it's better? Okay, so that's the flow of things. Okay, dinner time is a time to give thanks that as family we can meet together for meals. And then second thing is, how can we do better? So this is actually a video I recommend, a YouTube channel I recommend to people. Okay, so I hope that's useful. Oh, somebody, somebody want to ask, what's the difference between therapists, counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists? Okay, very good question. Psychiatrists in Singapore are doctors, MBBS, like myself, I'm MBBS, I'm a medical doctor. So I've delivered babies, I fix bones, I look after people with stroke, heart attack, and so on and so forth. So psychiatrists are doctors, medical doctors. We can give MC a medical cert. Psychologists, counselors, and therapists, right? Maybe I split into which school they go to lah. Okay, if you go to if you're a clinical psychologist, you go to NUS, right? And then you go to Department of this social work and psychology and social science, then you become a psychology, but that's a basic degree, right, in psychology. But to become a clinical psychologist, you need another 10 more years of clinical training. Okay. To become a psychiatrist, other than MBBS, I need another 10 more years to become a specialist. For counselors, they went to take a master's in counseling. They may have a basic counseling degree or even a certificate, but then they go on to get a degree and then a master's in counseling. Therapists are different type of therapists, right? You have occupational therapists, physiotherapists, speech therapists, right? Okay. There are different type of so-called therapy. Now we even have adventure therapy and forest therapy. Going for a walk in the forest in a very deliberate way, in a very systematic way, it's called therapy, okay? Okay, I hope that I answered the question for Yi-Sing.
Thank you, Joseph. I think there is one more question in the chat, and we'll take that as the last question. When is MCD considered as mental illness?
Oh, what's MCD?
Or are you referring to OCD? Is it? Maybe that's a...
Oh, OCD, okay.
I think it could be a typo. Yeah, OCD.
Okay. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. Basically, obsessions are ruminations, right? Ruminations are repeated thoughts that keeps on coming. It's very intrusive, but it belongs to a person. They keep on thinking, ruminations. Compulsions are what you call rituals. So rituals are things they do and do and do. The most common OCD is actually hand washing, checking behavior, and also so bathing, right? Fear of contamination. So they fear of actually dirt and all that. So they keep bathing, keep cleaning and washing, right? Checking behavior, they think that the tap is not closed properly, the door is not locked properly. They keep going and check. The fridge fridge, I always keep checking, make sure it's closed properly. Okay, when does it become a disorder? It's when there's significant impairment in occupational, social, and leisure functioning. Okay, it becomes a disorder when the person becomes late and can't go to work. They're supposed to go to work, but they're still bathing and they take hours, right? They keep checking. They left the house ready. They went back to go and check on the lock again because they say, "Oh, I didn't turn off the fridge, the stove. Oh, I didn't turn off the aircon," and they insist they want to go back home. Okay, then leave for work. Then I think that's significant impairment in occupational, social, and leisure functioning, and usually they may benefit from some medical help. Okay, I hope that answers that question. All of us are a bit preoccupied, but it's okay. But I know the ladies are sometimes they take 1 hour, but it's okay. It's called spa, facial. Okay, that's important. Okay, but if you bathe for 8 hours until you're scrubbing yourself until the hands are dry, then that's not good. One of the patients is a lady I saw. She's working, but she takes 8 hours to bathe, and she couldn't sleep because it's eating into her sleeping. Right, so it's challenging, but it can be treated.
Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the participation from everyone.
So allow me to pray for us, and then at the end of the prayer, I will also just make a short announcement. But let me pray for us first. Lord, thank you for everyone who has come together to learn more about what is needed for our well-being. And Lord, you created our bodies, our minds in a certain way, which will respond to certain things that we need. And you created us with such things, with the knowledge that we can improve our lives and well-being when we begin to take steps to care for our lives the way you have designed for us to care for it. And we thank you for Joseph, who has availed his time to teach us some of these things. And to be mindful of some of these aspects of our lives, which sometimes maybe in the stress or the anxiety of the moment we have overlooked and we have not paid so much attention to. But today, the parts that you have brought to our attention, Lord, begin to help us to find ways to meet them and to connect with friends who can help us along the way as well. But also give us courage when we need help. Lord, to be willing to ask. But we pray that we may also be a community that when help is asked of us, that we will also be able to help them. So Lord, we look to you and I ask, Lord, that you will bless everybody here and their families with your peace, with the assurance of your goodness, and that in all things you are in control, and that your plans for us are always good. And so we can always live with hope for the future, and we can live with a mind to improve our well-being and those of our family and those around us. So thank you, Lord, that your will for us is life, peace, and joy. And thank you for your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen.